What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. As always, that deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, as well as I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video. Like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a member of the channel. There's lots of rewards there for you, and interact with any of the links down in the description. I'd appreciate it so much. We are on our last week of content before Duskmorn, and I can't wait. The set looks like a ton of fun. We've finally seen all of it as the time that I'm recording this episode, so I can't wait. I'm brewing things in the background. Stuff's going on, so don't worry. More content's coming, and we're burying you guys in videos. That's my goal. But today, let's see. All four of the videos this week, to some degree, are celebrating either the D&D Secret Lair subset that came out a few weeks back, or, well, one video this week will be on another Secret Lair that came out that wasn't one of them. But most of the content this week is based around those D&D Secret Lairs. We did Asterion a week or so ago, and I wanted to keep going, make sure that we cover some of it and have some fun, especially since, to be 100% honest, I didn't cover a ton of Baldur's Gate on the channel when it came out. It was before I was really hitting my stride with content consistently, and I really never dealt with AFR on the channel at all. So I wanted to kind of make sure that we had some fun, went back and dealt with some of this content. So today we're looking at the Karlach Secret Lair. Of course, she got her own Secret Lair with a bunch of reprints. And so Karlach is a commander with a background. Choose a background. So the way the background mechanic works is you get to choose any of the legendary enchantment backgrounds, and that forms effectively your partner commanders. So there's a lot of options for Karlach. And in fact, I went back and forth on Sword Coast Sailor and Flaming Fist. It was one of those things where I actually kind of drew up a rudimentary list for both, but I decided to go with Flaming Fist because I think Karlach is so much fun as an idea as a Voltron commander, because she gives you extra combat. It says whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase this turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn, and then after this phase, there's additional combat phase. And Flaming Fist says whenever this creature attacks, it gets double strike until end of turn. This effectively means that with Karlach, on a normal attack where you have Flaming Fist and Karlach out and nothing else out, Karlach is now a 5/4 double strike that gets to attack twice. All we need to do is add any sort of evasion or anything else to help her hit harder, and Karlach is going to get very out of control very quickly. The whole goal of the deck is either to get more combats, make her unblockable, or start putting things like trample and flying into the mix so that it just gets very difficult to deal with. Again, a 5/4 double striker just on its own is a lot of damage if somebody doesn't block it. If you think about it, if we get double her power at all, or get a counter on her and double the power, someone's now gone to commander damage. If we can get her in the air and power her up, now we can potentially take out somebody even quicker in the air. If we can get her to the point where she can knock one person out per combat with her power, right now we're knocking two players out of turn to commander damage. You can start to see where I think the top end of Karlach is going, which is we're trying to get Karlach big enough so that her herself is now a risk to our opponents. But the key thing with the deck is we're also just going to put other things in the deck so that our opponent has to now deal with it. In fact, there are other creatures that can give us more combats as well, meaning that Karlach can now be more of a threat to our opponents. Again, ideally we want to get Karlach indestructible or evasive so that way she can't be destroyed in these battles that we're trying to take. But I think the point is that with a turn or two of Karlach being unburdened, we're probably going to just run through a board, and our goal is to just win the game in sweet, glorious combat. So how do we take more combats? Again, Karlach gives us one per turn, but remember that we could take more, and Karlach can continue to deal its damage. Remember that Flaming Fist just gives it double strike until end of turn, meaning that no matter how many combats we take, she's going to have double strike. We have things like Bloodthirster, which itself can start taking extra combats, but only for it. Which is interesting, because it says if when it deals combat damage to a player, untap it. After this combat phase, there's additional combat phase. Sure, it starts another one, and traditionally, your creatures will be tapped when they're attacking. But the nice part is that Karlach will untap everyone after that first combat. If we can give her Vigilance, now she can take advantage of every extra combat that another creature is going to give us, and we can keep attacking. I don't think Bloodthirster's as good to me as Portraiser, which sits next to it, which is that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we untap each creature, there's additional combat, meaning that If we can start pairing these together, Karlach's going to give us the second one. Portraiser should ideally be able to give us a third one that turn, and then if we have any other effects that can give us another ones, they will. What's also fun about Portraiser is if Portraiser and Karlach are out at the same time, we don't have to attack with Portraiser right that first combat if we want to kind of save up. Think about it. The first combat we just attack with Karlach. We get the second combat. Now we attack with Portraiser. Portraiser has first strike, and we can try to get it in somewhere effective, right? It deals damage. Untap each creature. There's another combat. Now we're in our third combat with Karlach and Portraiser. Portraiser tries to hit somebody else. If it can, now we've unlocked a fourth one. And now you're talking about Karlach with at minimum 20 damage out on itself, if not 40 with Flaming Fist out and any other enablers that were there. So you can start to see where some of these extra combat effects, you're just layering on the amount of damage that Karlach can do over the course of a combat step. You have something like Overpowering Attack that we could pay for just 3 mana as long as Karlach hits somebody, and we just get another combat phase. Again, untap all creatures you control, there's another combat. And that's the untap is important, because then our pieces except Karlach are going to start mattering. It's not just Karlach that we want to do damage. If Bloodthirster's attacking every combat, we'll happily take it now, right? Bloodthirster has that restriction of only being able to hit a player that hasn't already attacked this turn, right? Same thing with Portraiser. But I don't think we mind that in the grand scheme of things, because we're just dealing more damage out, and we could potentially get more damage in on the side as people are focused on blocking and dealing with Karlach. Relentless Assault is another straight up extra combat. And then Helm of the Host just seems like a ton of fun, right? Anytime your commander is giving you extra combats the first time it attacks in a turn, Helm of the Host is always a very storied combo with it, because we're making a token that's a copy of it, except it's not legendary and gains haste, meaning that with Karlach and Helm of the Host out, the first combat, Helm of the Host is going to make a copy of Karlach. We're not going to attack with that copy, because the first copy of Karlach is going to already give us another combat, right? Then on the second combat, we attack with the copy of Karlach, giving us another combat, and now you're just chaining combats. And the hope there is that either our original Karlach is too big, too evasive, or indestructible to the point that we're just going to net enough combats to win the game. I mean, ideally, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do with Karlach. Any Voltron commander is trying to get in combat enough to just deal enough commander damage to win the game, and that's the goal there. But we're going to pair all of these extra combats with unblockability, flying, things like that are making it evasive. We got plenty of options now, especially with the more recent sets. We got Brotherhood Regalia in the Assassin's Creed just giving it unblockability in Ward 2. Silver Shroud costume gives the creature Shroud the turn it comes in, and then the equipped creature can't be blocked. Trailblazer's Boots gives the creature non-basic land walk, which is effectively unblockability against every single deck you're ever going to play in. I would be very surprised if you played a deck that didn't have a non-basic land. I mean, I have one deck personally that very, very most of the time is going to play all just one color of basic lands, but that's very abnormal in modern Commander. A lot of times you're playing 2-3 colored lands, you're playing utility lands, you're playing things to help you out. Boots is pretty much always going to end up being unblockability for the creature it's on. Whisper Silk Cloak, straight up unblockable. You have things like Unquestioned Authority, giving it protection from creatures, effectively meaning it can't be blocked. And again, leading to maximum damage. This is only 5 of what could be 8 or 10 if you really wanted to lean into unblockability. I think there's enough, copies of this ability in the deck. It's not the only thing I leaned into, but I think there's enough there. But the other thing that I wanted to lean into was just, the Karlach Secret Lair comes with City on Fire, right? A card that we'll talk about in a second. But I think it points us towards using all these abilities in red or white to give multiplication of damage or trample or flying, right? We have Archetype of Aggression, giving all of our creatures trample, and our opponent's controllers can't have trample. So now at minimum, Karlach is hitting every time it's hitting. Blade Historian gives all attacking creatures we control double strike. This is important because now, whether Flaming Fist is out or not, Karlach has double strike, but now everything else does. So now everything else is becoming more of a risk. That 2/2 could be 4 damage or 12, right? Depending on what effects we have out. Gisela, Bait of Gold Knight, says if a source would deal damage to an opponent or permanent opponent controls, it deals double that damage instead. So here we go. Now we're really threatening that damage to our opponents. And if anything deals damage to us or a permanent we control, it's half. Now we're kind of softening the blow of just getting in there and dealing with things in combat. Helvar, God of Battle, will give all creatures we control that are enchanted or equipped double strike. I brought in some equipment into this deck since Boros decks are so good at equipment and using them to their advantage. Now, because some of those unblockable things were equipment, and there's other equipments that can give trample or double strike or flying, right? Now we can bring those in and pair the evasion with double strike, even if somebody gets rid of the fist, or if somebody gets rid of Karlach. Now the rest of our creatures can have double strike. We're trying to build a strategy in a bubble that's not completely affected by just Karlach being there, but Karlach is what we want to be used. Kedis feels great here. Whenever a commander we control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to their opponent. This, although the commander damage itself won't count, right? Like if I deal 20 with Karlach to somebody, that 21, let's say I deal 21 exactly to somebody with Karlach or 22 commander damage, Kedis won't defeat our opponents by dealing that 22 damage to each of them. But you could start to see how Kedis would get very out of hand with Karlach, because if I'm dealing 10 each combat and I'm taking multiple combats, I only need to attack one person. Everybody else is going to get hit in the process. I'm also trying to hit everyone at the same time. I'm trying to attack everybody with other creatures too. So it's not just Karlach now they have to worry about. They still have to worry about the board at large. Angel Fire Ignition is a fun card. This is a card that I use a lot in my Nimpakal Brawl decks, but I think it feels good here because you're giving Karlach 2+1/+1 counters, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn. So we're gaining life when she's hitting. She's potentially getting double strike from Flaming Fist. We're gaining the life back, and it has Vigilance, meaning that she can just attack in all those combats and block as well. I love Angel Fire Ignition. Being able to use it once and then flash it back out of our graveyard means that we could potentially use it early to get some life and then set up another bigger turn where we're going to take more combats and use Ignition back out of the graveyard to just set it up and make it good. Legion Leadership gives a creature double target creature's power and gives it first strike. I love this for two reasons. One, it's a land on the backside, meaning it's always useful in our deck, right? But this and the Unleash Fury beside it become really important if we make Karlach unblockable and there's a situation where she's at 6 or 7 power. Using something like Legion Leadership or Unleash Fury plus that double strike from Flaming Fist is now going to knock somebody out with commander damage. And I think that's important when we can keep these up without our opponents knowing what we have. They're both 1 or 2 mana, right? The perfect mana for someone to think that maybe we have a removal spell or we're holding up something for combat, and then we can use them to just take a real advantage. The other nice thing about these is if you pair these with any effects that give you lifelink or things like that, now we're gaining extra life back, and now we're kind of providing ourselves a little bit of a pillow fortress for our opponents cracking us back if we're dealing so much on the top swing. Caduceus feels great here from the Assassin's Creed set, giving Karlach lifelink. So now we're at minimum probably gaining, 10 life a turn? But if we have 30 or more life, which remember we do automatically, right, in Commander, as long as it's still early in the game, the creature gets +5/+5 indestructible and prevent all damage to be dealt to this creature. So now you're talking about Karlach being a 10/9 with lifelink and double strike. And you start to see where Caduceus could just completely take off and help us really get up. I think in a deck like this, it's scary to see how much just a little +1/+1 or a +2 or +2/+0 into Karlach can really swing out of control when we start giving it double strike and things like that. Excalibur feels like an absolute meme, and I love it. Costing X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents we control. Karlach is 5, Flaming Fist is 3, right? So that's 8 at least there, meaning if we have both of them out, Excalibur is only down to 4, but there's more than that, right? Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are all historic. We have lots of artifacts swinging around, so Excalibur should be cheap to get down. +10/+0 in Vigilance. All we need is this plus unblockable, this plus trample, and someone's probably just dead on board. Two-handed axe says whenever crypt creature attacks, we double its power until end of turn. This feels really good with multiple combats because it's going to double every time it attacks, meaning Karlach's just going to get very difficult to deal with. And again, if it's unblockable and we start taking multiple combats, the game's just going to end very quickly. And then there's that printing a city on fire that came in the secret layer. Triple damage. Source we control would deal to a permanent or player means that everything in our deck is a threat. And I think most of the time we're going to win with Karlach, but it's great to make the thing around it threats as well. As far as some fun interaction goes, there's some way for us to really just have some fun have some fun with this type of effect. We have Jessica Thrice Reborn, a 3-mana Planeswalker, and this was my potential other thought I was thinking of with Karlach. Karlach gets a background, but this could be an option if we were going for more of a partner route. What I love about Jessica is you get to pay 0 and choose a creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one or more of your opponents, it deals triple that damage instead. Again, that would go through every single combat. It would be dealing triple, and it doesn't take very long for that ability to stack up. Delina just seems like a ton of fun. Create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of target creature, except it's not legendary and has exile this creature at the end of combat, and then we could potentially make more of them. This feels like a slight now with Karlach because you're not getting extra combats, but what I really like is Delina has multiple opportunities to attack, and we could also protect Delina as well, meaning we can just play this game every combat. Now our opponent has to deal with multiple copies of a creature, multiple copies of something like Bloodthirster or Portraiser, right? Which are just going to keep making extra combats, and then they're going to go away, but they're still going to make the extra combat. I think that's where Delina really shines, is the Portraisers and the Bloodthirsters and the Cruel Celebrants, right, of the world that just make extra combats. Get more copies of them, keep the fun going. I mean, and again, just let Karlach do what it does best. And then Aroas, probably one of my favorite of the Theros gods. It's hard to say that when like Xenagos is so much fun, but Aroas basically just says all of our creatures have menace, and then all of our creatures can't be dealt damage. This pairs really well with the Dolmen Gate that got printed in Karlach's Secret Lair. Just really protecting all of our attacking creatures, meaning that they're all just going to get through and deal big damage. But I've said it on the show and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at this deck, and I think there's a lot that can be learned in testing. Mainly, are my ratios right? Do I need more unblockable? Do I need more double strike? Do I need more trample? Do I need more flying? Do I need more combats? There's so many ways to take the deck. And the 3 cards represented, I think, are just cards I would be looking at as ideas. Aurelion the War Leader and Seize the Day offer more ways to get more combats, right? Seize the Day gives us an additional combat, but only untap 1 creature. Aurelia, whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, we untap all creatures and get another combat. Aurelia can kind of work as another kind of copy of Karlach in the deck, still works with Helm of the Host and things like that. And then we have Idolized. Whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets +X till the turn, where X is the number of non-land permanents we control. Again, the bigger our board is, the bigger that Karlach could potentially be unblockable. I like Idolized a ton, but I've tried to kind of spin the deck towards trying to go wide whenever possible and not just being Karlach. But I think if you want to just go full Voltron, go full Karlach, I think Idolized comes in and becomes a really great part of the deck. Well, let's get into our playtest. Keeping a 4-lander here with Opening the Armory, which can go get us any equipment or aura we want put in our hand, and then Masterwork of Ingenuity, being able to copy and equipment on the battlefield, and then Relentless Assault. So we have an extra combat. We have some ways to get equipment. I like this one. We draw Codsworth. Codsworth is a ton of fun. Commanders have Word Choose. This is going to protect Karlach a little bit. We can add double white and use this to cast auras or equipment, and then we can tap it to basically change where an aura equipment is attached, which isn't a bad ability at all. We'll play the Triumph since there's nothing I can do turn 1. And we see a Swamp. I'm at 4 plus a little bit more for Codsworth, so I think I'll leave this on top because we do want to get to 5 right for Karlach. Turn through, we will draw that mountain. I guess there's probably 2 thoughts. We could... Oh, that's right. Flaming Fist is 3. So I think we're definitely opening the armor here. The question is, what do we go get? I like the idea of something that makes Karlach unblockable, so we can get that party started. That could be an option. There could be an option of something that just makes it bigger. Of course, we're in red and whites, right? Looks like Sunforger is always an option for something for us to get. I think I'd want something to make it unblockable. I don't even mean Caduceus could just be fun as well. Give it lifelink, Mithril Coat, give it indestructible. Caduceus does give it indestructible as well. That could be fun. I also like the idea of something giving it unblockable. Let's just, for the fun of it, take Caduceus and just work that way, considering I think the life gain is going to be useful enough. keeping up with the counter up top. So here we go. Turn 3, we draw Fabled Passage. That's not bad either. Codsworth could come down this turn, and next turn we could potentially play Flaming Fist and Caduceus, so I kind of like that as an option, right? It kind of gets to be a mana dork for equipment, right? Obviously, we can't copy Caduceus with Masterwork of Ingenuity, so we do kind of need to be careful of that. Hey, SRAM's not bad, giving us the ability to draw some cards. The question is, do we Flaming Fist plus Caduceus? Because next turn, we would be able to both put Karlach down and get the Caduceus on it, right? Or we could SRAM into Caduceus and draw some cards. I don't know. My gut still tells me we get the Fist down and we get the Caduceus down and start setting up. I feel like although Karlach can attack next turn, getting it at least protected with Caduceus, since we're at the right life total, does seem like a great way to protect her in the meantime. So turn 5 here. Play Karlach for 5. Tap Codsworth to get Karlach souped up with that Caduceus. And now it has lifelink. It can block well. And it's a 10-9 right now because of us having 30 or more life. Now, no one can attack into us. They have to try to get around the ward, too, basically to get rid of Karlach. Now, which is possible, right, on turn 5. But again, if they can't, now we can just take real advantage of what may potentially come next turn. Turn 6, we draw Dolmen Gate, which is, man, really a great way to take advantage of the board state we're in. We play SRAM, or do we play the Relentless Assault? Let's think about this. Karlach is a 10-9 with double strike and lifelink right now. I can play Dolmen Gate. We're getting 2 combats. We're getting at least 40 life. Let's crack the Fabled Passage. I think I would Dolmen Gate. Leaves me 4 mana up for the Relentless Assault, potentially giving me another combat, or I could go somewhere else. Move to combat. We're getting an extra combat, and we have double strike, right? Because of Flaming Fist, I'm dealing 20 in the first combat, 20 in the second combat, right? So our opponents are just in trouble. They can't kill the Karlach by blocking it. We're just effectively probably just going to gain 40 life here if nobody has a response. And then if there's any other better attacks, if there's good attacks I can make, I mean, if I haven't knocked somebody out, which would be my goal here, if I can get Karlach in for 20 damage twice, right? Maybe you use the first attack to break through somebody's board. If somebody's open, you nail them to the wall. And we take the extra combat, and I would try to nail somebody else to the wall as well. Get them really low, get them in trouble. And if I think I can do it with another combat, I would do it with Relentless Assault. I think otherwise, I would just try to Thrill a Possibility and maybe draw some cards, or get SRAM down and kind of set up for an extra turn. I think at this point, it's all about just protecting Karlach from not dying. I mean, it has Indestructible, so all we're susceptible now is single target exile removal, which, again, is cheap in Commander. It's something we do have to worry about. But I think what I'd probably do is, if I'm not going to take the extra combat, I'd just SRAM, play the Thrill Possibility, pitch the Ingenuity, and draw 2, and there we go. Helm of the Host is probably just game at this point if nobody can stop it. It's 4 to come down, 5 to equip, 5, 1, 2, 3. So 1 mana off of that exchange, but we do draw a card when we cast it, right, with SRAM. So we do basically, on this turn 7, well, there we go, we got the land. So I mean, we can play the Helm of the Host, basically put it down, and now the game's over. Karlach can just take infinite combats here and just roll over our opponents. But let's go to Playtest 2. I mean, I know, it's a little Magical Christmas Landy, but again, at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out what does the deck functionally do, right, at the end of the day, and how do we work ourselves towards that Voltron combat line. Well, here we go. Here's the classic Sol Ring Arcane Signet hand, so we'll keep it. I mean, that's 4 mana on turn 2. We've got Unblockable. We've got some Annihilator fun. We've got Gisela. So I think we got some great stuff to work up towards. It's just going to be finding more mana, right? So we'll draw for turn 1. Fabled Passage. I mean, we just do the thing, right? It may be hated, but it's a great turn 1. Sol Ring into Arcane Signet. Again, untapping on turn 2 with 4 mana. We'll play that Fabled Passage. It's going to come in tapped, right? But we do want to use it to go get some more mana on board, right? We have 5 now. 4 of it we can use this turn. We could Flaming Fist. We could get Arden. We could get the Silver Shroud. We really don't want to since we can flash in. I think I'd just get the Fist out. I have Karlach next turn, so I think that's my playline right now. And I just try to see what next turn brings me. Turn 3, we see a 6th mana. So Karlach is 5. If I do that, I have no other way to protect it. I could Arden plus Archetype and try to work towards maybe something like that for the next turn, but I'm trying to think. We can get Battle Mage down. Arden could start getting it out there for cheap. I think Karlach, right? Get the threat down on board. I'd leave a mana up, maybe make somebody think I have something like swords or something like that. Come into turn 4. Oh, we was really hoping for a land there, but that's okay. 6 mana. I think it's Arden plus Archetype, right? Karlach has double strike, so I mean we're double striking with trample. We can get some good damage in, right? Nothing to attach quite yet, but that's okay. I still like this. I think Karlach's still a threat. 20 damage, basically double striking, or 20 damage total, right, with trample. Means we can potentially hurt somebody here on turn 4, and this is turn 4, so we're in great shape. Turn 5, we unfortunately don't see a land, but we see Maul the Skyclaves, which can get Karlach in the air, basically meaning that we can be a real threat to our opponents. I mean, my hope is that unless somebody was wide open next turn, last turn, I probably would have spread this 10 around, just so that way on a future turn you can threaten knocking 2 people out, and this is the exact way to do that. Now Karlach is a 7/6 with double strike, flying and trample, and those 2 people I attacked last turn are definitely dead for sure, right? The other thing I like about Skyclaves, which immediately comes in and attaches itself, is now I can hold up the Silver Shroud costume to protect it if somebody has removal. Somebody's definitely dead this turn, and we can 2 people probably if I spread it out well last time. And now all I'm doing is just going to protect Karlach with Silver Shroud costume unless somebody wipes the board. And on my next turn, I'm 1 mana off Gisela, but I honestly don't think it matters. I just think I put like the Battle Mace down, or I just try to thrill into something else. But I mean, at this point, if I knock 2 players out this turn, the 3rd player, unless they can remove Karlach, which it's technically safe right now, but once, right, to the Shroud, it is probably just dead. I mean, this just goes to show you with the right draw and with the right setup, this Flaming Fist combo can be very brutal to deal with, especially when you have something like Trample. So I know that that's a little Magical Christmas landy in the sense that, like, I'm cherry picking games where we're getting Karlach plus equipment down on turn 5. I'm sure the more we do this, the more you can learn about a deck. But I think that's important. It's important to see how it strives and does really well, so that you can better formulate your plan in the interim. But let me know, what do you think of Karlach down in the comments section below? This was a ton of fun to brew. I don't really brew a ton of Voltron-y style decks, which I thought was really cool about this one, and I wanted to celebrate that secretly. I think Karlach's such a fun card. I've used it in decks in the past. I just never thought about it as a commander, and so I thought Flaming Fist would be cool. It was a ton of fun to work equipment matters and damage matters cards into the deck, and I think the deck accomplishes what I wanted to do. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I catch you guys next time.